Hey everyone, I am back. It's Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. I hope that you have had a wonderful week. And for those of you who are joining for the very first time, it's Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. So, welcome. And for those of you who tune in every single week to Mental Health Moment at Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, welcome back. Thanks for those who are starting to join here. It's Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. And as we continue this month, again, it's crazy hard to believe it's the very first month of the year here. But as we continue into this month, I want to continue to give you more tips about mental toughness and about how to continue on your journey of mental health, because the reality is, I know, especially at the beginning of the year, everyone's making their goals, everyone's making their resolutions, which is good. Everyone's making, hopefully, their self-care goals, which we talked about last month, and making sure that you are taking care of yourself. So I want to give you a couple of tips. And thanks for those who are starting to join here. It's Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. But today I want to give you a couple of tips that hopefully can get you through this year. Because if we haven't learned anything over the last couple of years, life surprises us, and it takes a lot sometimes mentally to really pivot through, right? All the crazy changes that have happened. And hi, everyone. Happy New Year to you as well. Maybe some of you this is the first mental health moment that you've caught for the new year. So welcome. And yes, Happy New Year for sure. So the first tip I want to give you today is really thinking about your mental flexibility. So I will repeat, because it's one of my favorite terms and favorite things to think about. And I want to share that with you, is about being mentally flexible, which means let me tell you what it doesn't mean. It doesn't mean that you have to think that something is going to go wrong. It doesn't mean you have to get into that mindset of always being anxious and worrying, is something going to go wrong? Is something not going to go right? I don't quite mean that type of mindset, but what I do mean is being mentally flexible to know that whatever goals you made for this year, whether it's for this year or long-term goals, be flexible that life is going to happen. Things are going to come up, and be prepared to pivot whatever those goals were. Because even, there's so many times I've found that with our goals and with our self-care routines and those sort of things, something comes up and we say, oh my God, and things start to fall apart for you mentally or emotionally. But it doesn't have to be that way. And hi, thanks for those who are starting to join here. But it doesn't have to be that way if you are already mentally prepared to make that shift and to make that pivot. Because if any of us learned worldwide about pivoting and being flexible, we learned through this COVID-19 pandemic. Actually, I shouldn't even say COVID-19, because I don't even know what version of COVID we're on right now. But nonetheless, that really took a lot. And being flexible is hard. I want to say that it is difficult. We just can't predict the bumps in the road that are going to come up. So it is difficult, but it's so critical to have that mindset. And good evening. Thanks to those who are still starting to join here. We're talking today about preparing, because it's all about your mindset. It just really, truly is, to get through whatever goals you put on your vision board or wrote down. I know for me, I have a dry erase board at home. So my personal goals, my professional goals, and my spiritual goals, all of them are written on there. My physical goals, all of them are there for me to see every time I walk into my office. So I encourage you to do that, of course, but also having the mental flexibility. Even just yesterday, there's a lot happening depending on where you live in the world with weather. I feel like the last week I have heard about tsunamis, tornadoes, snowstorms, like just everything. It was so bizarre, and it totally wrecks the travel industry, as you all know. So for those of you who are tuning in, who tune in regularly to Mental Health Moment, you all know that I travel often. Today I'm here in Jacksonville, Florida. But yesterday I completely just canceled my flights and, took another route to get here. And I had to be really flexible in that thinking, because for me, I was like, okay, I got my flight, I got this, I'm doing this. And it's like, no, we're canceling all that. we're doing something else, and we almost don't get here in time for mental health moment, right? So it's just about making those shifts in your mind that things are going to come up. And for those of you, and by the way, for mental health moment, it is open to every race, religion, ethnicity, background, whomever you are. But for those of you who do happen to be spiritual, uh, and know that sometimes we are not in control, like we think we are, and there's a greater reason for things happening, hopefully, you will also know in your spiritual journey that we cannot predict the things that are going to come about. So I want you again to think as you move into this new year, whatever you wrote down, whatever your goals are, please stick to that, but also know and be prepared to make those shifts in yourself. And really, one of my personal philosophies, which many of you know, is really to keep going and keep growing, because that's really what it's all about. So take the opportunity to take that life lesson, whatever it is that did not go the way you want it to go. Maybe some of you already experienced that, even though we just started this year, and that's okay. But take that life lesson, keep going, keep growing. If you have to put a pause on some of your goals, it's okay, but just keep going. And thank you for those who are still starting to join here. It's Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. I see some first timers. I see some people that tune in every single week. So again, welcome back. But the first tip again for today is mental flexibility, which none of what I teach on mental health moment is overnight here, right? It takes time. Everyone's at a different chapter when it comes to mental flexibility. That is completely okay. But when you do start to get better at mental flexibility, it can really help with your resilience, and it can really help with you knowing that you can continue on this journey. And whatever, again, your goals are and the things you have set to accomplish for yourself, as far as mentally and emotionally and physically and spiritually, you'll know that whatever it is that came about, that you can move through that. And again, I cannot promise that there won't be pain and there won't be sadness and there won't be anxiety. Those things are normal to experience along the way, but know that you can still keep pushing through. And the next thing I want to share with you, and someone said, I believe that the struggles, issues, temptations, etc., that are used to make us great, bright lights for those lost in the darkness. Yes. And I'm glad you brought that up, because really there's a lot of darkness, but there's also a lot of light, and there's also a lot of hope. And for those of you who maybe celebrated yesterday, even Martin Luther King Day, the day of service, there's so much good in the world. And I'm going to go to my next tip in a minute, but I just wanted to respond to what you just said, because there really is so much good in the world. I know on social media and the traditional media and the things you read and the things you hear, it seems like it's all negative, but there's also a lot of good in the world. And there's also a lot of really great, amazing people in the world. So just know that really exists. Yesterday I went to a youth leadership summit for a board that some of you know. I'm on the Ryan Neese Foundation board, and to see these 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders, youth, these young kids, right? 14 to 18-year-old kids really taking the time to do amazing things in their community and give back and show leadership and show us adults sometimes the light that still exists in the world was so powerful. So I just want to encourage you. There is a lot of darkness, as you mentioned, there is a lot of sadness, but there's also a lot of hope. And there's also a lot of great people out there doing amazing things, and teenagers as well. Shout out to all the kids and teenagers doing great things as well. Someone said, first time here, welcome. It's Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. So tip 1, again, was to work on your mental flexibility. The second thing to really be thinking about is we really have to think about making a commitment also to these goals. And I know that commitment can be really difficult. Sometimes it really can, but who can you partner with? If it's an accountability partner, if it's your friend, your coworker, your family member, or whomever it is, a lot of times some of our goals can really be accomplished when we're in positive communities. That can really be helpful. Or as I always say, to make sure that you stay inspired, make sure you stay uplifted. Who are you surrounding yourself around? What are you listening to on social media? What types of videos are you watching? Because all of those things really matter. and they affect your well-being. So thinking of making sure you're having those things in your life as you make this commitment for your self-care goals this year and your mental health goals is going to be really important. Being positive is the right way to go. Absolutely. I'm glad someone said that too. And being positive is the right way to go. Well, for those of you who don't know me, I am a like diehard optimist, which sometimes gets me in trouble actually, to be really optimistic and try to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. But most times it works really well. But it is important to be positive. But going back to that first point, be positive, but also know that things are not always going to happen in the way that we think they're going to happen. And that's okay. And that's okay because there's a lesson in that. It can help you on your mental health journey to be a stronger person. It really can, even though it might not feel like that at the time, but it really can. And someone else said, working with them as a mental health worker, any advice? I think you mean, I'm not sure what you mean. Actually, the question, I'm wondering if you mean if you're working around someone who's also a mental health worker. So if that's what you're asking, and I think you are, I would say to that, for you around coworkers, if they're truly your friends, then that would be great to rely on them as a source of support. If they're not as close as a friend, then maybe to have that conversation with them and how can they provide some support to you if they're more of an acquaintance. But of course, there's a lot of different levels when it comes to support, when it comes to commitment to these goals. But again, everything's about the mindset. I keep coming back to that, but everything is about your mindset. When you are filling yourself up with not just the positivity, but the things that drive you, the things that move you forward, when you're continuing on that journey, this is not an overnight solution by any means, but it really can be, it should be a daily practice. I hope it is for you, but at least at a minimum, making it a weekly practice to nourish your mind, your body, and your soul, and whatever way works for you. And hi, thanks for those. We're still starting to join here. It's Dr. Hammond here, with your mental health moment. And the other thing I wanted to mention to you is, some of you may have heard, I think it was 2 mental health moments or so ago, but a really good book. I'm currently reading it. I'm almost done with it, but it's called The Book of Joy, which is by the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. It's a couple years old, but it's a really good book. It's a really good journey into, if you're into reading, or maybe you want the audiobook, it's on Amazon. But it's really good looking into the journey of joy. If you're at that place in your life where maybe you're like, okay, what does that even mean? What does joy mean to me? Because joy means different things. Joy meant a different thing to me 10 years ago than it does today. And it'll probably mean something different 10 years from now, right? We all change and evolve. But if you're in that inquiry of wondering, how can I make my life more joyous, especially if right now you're like, Dr. Hammond, I am struggling emotionally and mentally, and I'm worn out. And that's okay if you're in that place, but how can you find joy even in the darkest moments? The book talks a lot about that. It is excellent. And what that means for you, and how important it is for you and that you deserve joy, basically, is another theme of the book, but how you can accomplish having that joy. So I encourage you all to check that out. And somebody said positivity is an internal process, not an outward appearance. It really is. And I want to remind you, with my last tip, strongly remind you, because I know it's hard. I know all of you on social media, because you're watching this right now live, or maybe you're watching it later, replay, but everything you see on social media is not always the reality of people's lives. I strongly encourage you to really understand that what you're seeing is a snapshot of people. So whatever happened 24 hours in that person's day, if you saw one picture or one video, you could have seen a 6-second video that told you absolutely nothing about the rest of their, the 24 hours in their day. So don't make that assumption, because there's some studies right now that are showing that social media can cause depression. It can cause anxiety, because we are social beings and we tend to go on social media and start comparing our lives to other people. We go on social media and say, man, the grass is greener because look at this person and their new car, their new house, their new job, their new life. They're so great. They're so happy. And in the reality, they're not. And I've spoken to many, many people before as a psychologist who have blatantly told me they are not putting their real life, if you will, on social media because of their depression, because of their anxiety, and because of the stigma of what they would look like if they put what's really happening in their life. And most of us don't. So I want to encourage you again to be careful when it comes to social media. Be careful of comparing. That was the third tip, actually, not to compare yourself this year in your mental health journey, because again, it doesn't matter where you're at. You could be at year one. You're like, Dr. Hammond, I'm just starting this journey. I'm just starting to get my life together. Or you could be at year 10. We're like, I've been doing this for 10 years. I'm good. I'm in a great place. It's not fair for you to compare yourself to the next person if you're starting out, or if you're at year 10 or year 20 or wherever you're at in your mental health journey. So just be aware of that this year, moving into this year, as you watch social media, and remembering it is a highlight reel. It is a highlight reel. It is a highlight reel. If you don't remember anything from Mental Health Moment today, remember social media is a highlight reel. So be careful not to compare yourself with the journey of others, because we are all at different places. And I'm just really proud of, and thanks for putting in the tips here in the chat. I see you putting those in here. But we're all at different places in this journey. There's not a right or wrong. The most important thing for you is to be working on your mindset and to be working on taking care of yourself through whatever your goals are. If you have the biggest goals in the world, amazing. If you're like, I'm taking baby steps, I'm still rooting for you. Okay. So just remember that. And yes, and you're absolutely right. Someone said, I try to encourage being positive around everyone I am, no matter what is going on. I try to start my day off being positive by reading scriptures from the Bible and to meditate on them. However, sometimes you have to block out the negativity. Yes, absolutely. Well said. And here's the thing really quick before I go, which is an aside. It wasn't on my tips today, but I do want to mention that as I am a night owl, and I don't think night owls get the respect that they need. So for you, if you are a morning person, and I know some people that wake up at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, they're ready to go. And they're, like you said, maybe reading the Bible, meditating, or taking their downtime. If you are that person, fantastic. Continue to do that. That is amazing. If you say, Dr. Hammond, there's no way I want to wake up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, which I am one of those people, you may be too, that's okay. It doesn't make you any less of a person. I think the majority of self-help books that I have read is like, get up early and start the day. I will tell you personally, I do not do that. I like my sleep. Now I value it and treasure it. And I'm not up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. However, I'm a night owl, so I do stay up later and have the downtime and the meditation apps and all those fun things to work on wellness and to work on what I need to be working on after my child goes to sleep. But I do want to just really say that and remind you of that. It doesn't matter what part of my next book probably should be about that. It doesn't matter what part of your day that you take to work on you, whether you're the morning person, the early bird, or the night owl, or in the middle of the day. The most important thing that I want to share with you and remind you of is just to do it. like Nike said, just do it. Just start your goals, celebrate the small wins. There's a lot happening. There's a lot of recovery happening emotionally from everything that's happened over the last couple of years. But again, I just want to remind you to keep going and keep growing. If you all need me at any time, you can reach out. The website's here below, drnikishahammond.com. If you need any resources, referrals, again, reach out to me there, and I will try my best to get you a referral in your area for mental health. You can also follow me on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. What else am I on? Instagram. Pretty much all the social media channels. I'm usually trying to put out reputable mental health resources for y'all, or something inspirational, because that's what I live by as well, just inspirational quotes and moments. So feel free to connect on there, or again, reach out if you have any questions. And I will be back next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Black Women Empowered Incorporated Facebook page and YouTube Live and LinkedIn Live. So have an amazing week. I will see you all next time. Take care of yourselves, work on your mindset, be well, and I'll see you next time. Bye, y'all.